Want to race? I'll be back in a few. Hey, this is Chris. Welcome to the Compulsive Hobbyist. I'm just out for a very quick joyride on Memorial Day weekend here in the US. I've got other work I'm supposed to be doing, but this is what I'm doing right this minute. And lately I have been more active on some social media than I had been in the past. Particularly, obviously YouTube. I've got the YouTube channel over the past several months, which is new for me. And I've been more active on Reddit as well, on some various subreddits that are related to hobbies and interests that I have, including motorcycling. And there are a lot of very recurring questions that come up. And I thought I would just do a very quick video talking about some of those very common questions. And I'm sure they're commonly discussed and answered questions on motovlogs as well. And that's really about recommendations and suggestions for new or returning motorcyclers. And suggestions for new motorcyclers or motorcyclists are pretty easy to come by, and I'm just gonna really quickly just suggest a couple. One is definitely take new rider training. I took in the US here the MSF training between, 25-30 years ago. Yeah, I've been riding for a while, and I highly recommend it. It's something that, even if you have some riding experience, if you're somebody who maybe had a dirt bike growing up and you're looking to get your driver's license, or your motorcycle license, I still highly recommend going ahead and taking it, because they teach you a lot of skills: emergency avoidance, decreasing radius turns, panic stops, low speed maneuvering. There's just a lot that you get out of this, really kind of quick and fun 2-day course. But if you are, and this is really kind of what I wanted to talk about more, if you have motorcycle experience but you've taken a break from it, because that is something that I went through. Once I got started in my 20s, I took the MSF course. I went and got my first motorcycle, first couple motorcycles, and I had a couple years of experience under my belt. But then, I had made the mistake for my second motorcycle, buying something that didn't really fit me. I bought I'm over 6'4". Overseas, that's about 194 centimeters, I think. I don't know, I could be wrong. But I didn't fit very well on what was basically a sport bike. It was a cool bike. It was an amazingly designed bike. It was a great motorcycle, but it just wasn't comfortable over any distance. So I sold it in my late 20s, intending to buy something that was more suitable for a tall guy like me. Then I got into a relationship with the person who's now my wife, and we had kids, and the whole motorcycle thing just kind of fell off my plate. My advice, if you're getting into motorcycling, is buy a motorcycle and always have one in your garage, because it's just a lot easier when you get married and you have a family. If you have that motorcycle in the garage, you have a motorcycle. Whereas if you don't, then you're kind of starting over from square one. Not from a learning perspective, because riding a motorcycle is a lot like riding a bike. When I had been without this motorcycle for probably 8 to maybe 10 years. I don't know exactly how long it was, but it was a significant amount of time. I was just really missing being able to go out and ride, and just the feeling of going out and riding. I'd have dreams of it. I would have these dreams where I was cleaning my garage and I found my old motorcycle like buried in the back underneath a pile of, like, you know, tarps or something. And eventually I just ended up going out and buying a project motorcycle, an old, you know, basically an antique that needed a lot of work, and frankly spent more time in my garage in pieces than I did actually on the road riding it. But it was a motorcycle, and once I got it working, I, you know, went out and was riding it, you know, mostly just local stuff, but it got me back on the road. And I, as a returning rider, while I didn't need training in order to be able to ride, I mean, I just kind of went out and got the feel for that bike and was able to ride it. But I highly recommend, if you're in the same position, if you have not been riding for a long time, I highly recommend going and taking a more advanced motorcycle training course, or a refresher course, really. So I went back to the MSF and found I think what they call it, their advanced, I looked at it recently, the advanced rider course is what it's called now. And even though they call it an advanced course, it really is a refresher course. I mean, you're basically doing a lot of the same stuff. They introduce some more advanced stuff, but for the most part, it's kind of a repeat of the stuff you did in the original MSF if you took that. The big differences for me were that, one, they're not teaching it all over again, so you're not spending a day just learning how to balance and shift and all that stuff. They expect that you know this stuff. And two, you know, probably more importantly, is that I got to ride my own bike. You know, when I did the original MSF course, you know, they give you a little dinky, in my case I think it was like a Nighthawk 250 or something, you know, small bikes, which is good because they get dropped. I saw it happen in my first MSF. You know, they get dropped, they get knocked over, and they're not intimidating for people who are learning. They're very, very little, and when you're big like me, you know, 6'4", 200 and whatever pounds, I mean, it's not a comfy fit, those little tiny learner bikes, but you can learn on them. When you're coming back to riding, you really want to have a motorcycle. You know, figure out what it is you want to ride. Get that bike, get acquainted with it, and take it to the MSF course. It's a one-day course, so you're going to be there all day on a weekend most likely, but you're going to be out riding your own motorcycle, and you're going to be doing panic stops, and you're going to be doing, you know, low-speed maneuvering. And, you know, at one point towards the end of the course, they set up this cool zigzaggy little racetrack type thing, and it's fun. It's genuinely cool to be out there doing this stuff, you know, in a closed course with other learners, with an instructor to give you feedback. And to me, that's huge. You know, and that's really true for anything physical for me. It's like, you know, whether it's skiing or whether it's, you know, sports, I always benefit from having someone who knows what they're doing watching what I'm doing, because I can't see what I'm doing, and even if I could see what I'm doing, I'm not necessarily going to pick up what I'm doing wrong, but they are. And that's really helpful. And to be honest, I mean, when I took the advanced training course, I expected I was going to need a lot more remedial catch-up learning, since I hadn't touched a bike in, you know, 8 or 10 years. And it turned out I did just fine. You know, I was a little bummed when I did the test for the emergency stop, for the panic stop. I thought, oh, I didn't do very well at that. It was, you know, I definitely could have done better. But in reality, I got one of the best scores, and it's only maybe I didn't get one of the best, but I got a good score. And I think part of that was because I was riding an old motorcycle. It had kind of old brakes. You know, the bike itself simply wasn't going to stomp on a dime the way my old VFR was. But in the end, it's about you controlling the bike within the capabilities of the bike and within your own limits. And that's what they teach you to do. They teach you to kind of push your limits a little bit and also make this type of stuff a little bit more muscle memory. And I will say that there have been a couple of times in my riding experience where the muscle memory that I got from the two MSF courses have really helped me. Oh, here we go. We got some motorcyclists out. That's awesome. Hey, dudes. The guy on the sport bike waved to me. The guy on the big Harley with the ape hangers couldn't be bothered. But I waved to everybody anyways. I waved to cruisers, I waved to sport bikes, I certainly waved to fellow adventure bikes and dirt bikes. I waved to pretty much anybody on motorized two wheels. Awesome. And then once you get back on the road and you've got a motorcycle and you've got that experience, the next thing to do is to keep leveling up. And that's kind of where I'm at now. I need to bring my skills to the next level. And part of that is I'm just, you know, it's still spring. I'm still shaking off the cobwebs and, you know, and this is still a pretty new bike to me because even though I bought it last summer, I didn't get a lot of miles on it. But it's, the leveling up for me is going to be, I want to take some real, I want to go two different paths actually. I want to continue with the road bike training and get some real advanced training, and you know, by advanced I mean I'm drawing a complete blank, but there's a couple of really good driving schools, and they have courses, you know, various times of the year at different locations around the country. I'll put them down below. You can see a couple of examples down there because my word retrieval has failed me, as it so often does. And then the other thing I want to do is like an off-road riding school, and there's a lot of options for that. I've never really, other than on this bike in my own property, I've never really done any off-road riding. I don't have experience, you know, learning how to ride in dirt. Don't have experience learning how to ride in any sort of deep gravel. Certainly not sand. You know, and for that, they all say you should really learn on a small dirt bike and work your way up. And here I am with a big, tall 1000cc, you know, DCT Africa Twin. Not the best way to start learning that stuff. So exactly which route I'm going to take on that is, I'm just not sure yet. It's sort of a semi catchphrase from my my non-moto videos is, we're all learning. And I truly believe that. I mean, I'm certainly learning in all my hobbies. And, you know, we're all at different points in learning for anything we're doing. And I think it's a really healthy attitude, especially for something like motorcycling, which, I mean, look, we like to kid ourselves and say that we know what we're doing and that, you know, the only people who get injured are the people who are doing stupid stuff, but it's not true. I mean, the reality is, even if you're doing everything right, even if you're wearing all the gear, which I do, you know, you're still taking a risk. The best way to minimize those risks is to constantly reevaluate your abilities and try to level up. Because I know that even though I've read books and watched videos and, you know, watched Twist of the Wrist and whatever to learn about cornering and, you know, learning about picking lines and learning about the things you need to be looking for, in the end, reading about them and watching videos about them is not the way to make this stuff muscle memory. The way to really learn this stuff is to get out there and do it, and have somebody point out to you what you can be doing better, and then tell you, okay, that was pretty good, but you know, you really could have improved this. Now go out there and do it again. Because then once you get it right, and then they've told you, hey, that was perfect, then you know, because you've got the experience of doing it and you have the muscle memory and you know how it feels to take that descending radius turn at speed. And you know that when you hear the instructor at the other end of the parking lot cheering because you hit that turn perfectly, and that happened, then you've got it in your head. This is how it's supposed to feel. I'm really supposed to be leaned into this, and I'm really supposed to be committed to the turn. We're going to let that lady go through because she's not looking at where she's going. You always got to watch for cagers because they can't see you. That's my final lesson of the day. Whoop. I'm going to go help that young lady. Looks like she dropped something.
I won.
You won?
I got here faster.
Yeah, you did. You did. I took the scenic route. Anyways, I hope you got something out of that. Just remember, we're all learning. Ride safe.